Hi there, my name's Abel James with FatBurningMan.com, and thanks so much for stopping by. Today I'm excited to be here with Mira and Jayson Calton, who are authors of the best-selling book Naked Calories and doing some incredibly important work in the world of nutrition. And today we're going to be talking about their 6-year journey to over 100 countries in search of the secrets to permanent health, and some of the real reasons behind widespread and dangerous health crises of the 21st century, like heart disease, cancer, osteoporosis, diabetes, and obesity, as well as why you should consider eating eyeballs from time to time. All right, you ready? Here we go. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're here with Mira and Jayson Calton, and they're authors of the best-selling book Naked Calories, and they encourage their readers and clients to achieve micronutrient sufficiency to prevent chronic disease and achieve optimal health. And so Mira, at just 30 years old, suddenly found herself with a bone density of an 80-year-old woman and hobbled by advanced osteoporosis that made it almost impossible to walk. After a thorough search for a natural solution, she met Jayson. He worked his magic, and just 2 years later, Mira's condition was almost completely reversed. So Mira, that's an amazing story. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I went from absolutely being so devastated. I think it was the one time I had absolutely nothing to say, was when the doctor sat me down and just told me that it was never going to get any better and that I was going to just break more as I got older.
Yeah.
And then I had to be on medications. And then to find a solution and to be able to reverse it in only 2 years without any medications, all natural. It really, I mean, you don't really love your life until you know that you weren't going to live that life or going to be not going to be able to enjoy it. So it changed everything.
So what happened exactly?
Well, I was an unhealthy person, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
From the outside, you would have looked at me and thought, she's thin. She goes to hip hop dance class every day. She's running around town in her stilettos, going out every night. But what I wasn't thinking about is, what was my nutrition? I ate the same things every day, like many people do. They get stuck in ruts,
Mm-hmm.
and my weight was good. So I was thinking I was doing the right thing. I'd wake up in the morning and have a diet muffin, and I'd have a spinach salad for lunch, and then I'd reheat whatever was left for my Chinese food and reorder. And that was my basic diet. It was anything I could get my hands on in order to get back to work.
Right.
And, it just wasn't healthy.
Yeah, one of the interesting things that I encounter a lot and try to address is the difference between what is thought to be healthy and how that's divorced from reality, what is actually healthy. So what were some of the things that were unhealthy that you thought were healthy?
A spinach salad, things that were labeled diet,
right?
Anything, prepackaged, no-calorie salad dressing that is fat-free.
Mm-hmm.
All of those things, all those convenience foods that you can get down. You can look at the back. I would look at the back of a package, and if it was under, say, 300 calories, I thought that's what I was supposed to be doing.
Right.
And then I went to the gym, which was, we love fitness. But I was at the gym taking dance class once, twice, 3 times a day just to burn off those calories. And, you had to be a size, 0 or 2 in New York in order to really, and I was in fashion PR.
Mm-hmm.
So really, I was really much more worried about my looks than how I was feeling until it got way too late.
So, Jayson, this is what walked into your office, I guess. What did you do? What was your magic that you worked?
Well, I was surprised. I was really surprised. I had been working with clients for over 12 years already, but I hadn't really encountered anyone as young as Mira was who was suffering from osteoporosis to this extent. Advanced osteoporosis. So, right off the bat, we knew that the diet was a faulty one. But what we wanted to do more than to sit down and talk to her like we may typically with a client and say, well, maybe, where are your carbs? Where are your fats? Where are your proteins? We talk about these macronutrient manipulations, and we would try to think sometimes that, well, if I just find the magic ratio of these carbs, fats, and proteins, I'm going to create a healthy diet.
Right.
But what we don't realize is that really is only half of the equation. The other half is no matter what nutritional philosophy we choose to follow, whether it's paleo or low carb or vegan or vegetarian or Mediterranean or you name it, the most important thing we can do for ourselves is to make sure that the foods that we're choosing to eat have the highest micronutrient value. And that's really what we wanted to teach Mira. We said, listen, let's look at that muffin. Do you realize that the first ingredient is enriched white flour? Then they've taken out the fat. They've thrown in artificial flavors, colors, sweeteners, sugar, high fructose corn syrup, things you can't even pronounce on the label. She said, well, what about the spinach salad? That's so good for me. I mean, spinach is great, except for the oxalic acid that strips you of your calcium from 280 grams per 10-ounce bag to 25 grams. Mm-hmm. And then the reheated Chinese food, she's eating white rice and reheating in the microwave over and over and over again. And of course, that stir fry has been, stir fried to death. So we really had her look at those micronutrients and start to say, well, okay, so let's put together a program that we're going to create what we call, and we talk a lot about in the book, and one of the most important terms we use, and that's micronutrient sufficiency.
Yeah, and so given what the average American eats, it's shocking to me that the human body can even survive. It's just not real food. As you say, it's naked calories. What's amazing to me is that your body is so incredible, though, that it can literally turn things like Twinkies into fingernails. But the problem arises over time. It's, as you mentioned in your book, it's leaching vital nutrients from your bones, organs, and the rest of your body. So what actually happens with deficiency?
Well, we like to say that we believe, based on our research and the USDA's published research, we think that micronutrient deficiency is the most widespread and dangerous health condition of the 21st century.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because what people don't realize is that small deficiencies create what we call small holes in what we call the body or the house of optimal health. So if we're just slightly deficient, then we're going to get side effects that we sometimes just don't even think about. Maybe we get a headache. Maybe we're not sleeping well. Maybe maybe our memory is a little bit foggy, or we have a few aches and pains. And so people say, well, if we're so deficient, then why aren't we all just following around, just dropping dead? But that's because deficiency doesn't work that way. It works by creating small problems for small deficiencies. And then the longer we become deficient, or the more deficient we become over a longer period of time, then those small holes become large holes. And those are what create these chronic diseases that's crippling America, including heart disease, cancer, osteoporosis, obviously, like Mira, diabetes, and obesity.
Right. It's amazing to me how few people make the connection between what you're putting in your body and what happens to your body over time.
Right.
But nutrition obviously is one of the most important things. In my experience, a few years ago, I was doing things like Mira that I thought were very healthy, but it turns out weren't healthy at all. And it kind of left me miserable and flabby and wondering what the heck was going on. And so skip ahead to a few years later, and now I eat mostly a paleo style diet with a few nuances there. But what I know is that eating real food and eating certain foods in good quality, I'm sure has bumped up my micronutrients quite a bit. And what's happened is all of these little things that I accepted as being a part of who I was or how I aged, like you said, those aches and pains or the puffiness in my face, which is just what happened, right? But all those things reversed themselves. And it's hard to know exactly why, but I would imagine it has a heck of a lot to do with micronutrients. So how does that happen when you become sufficient? What happens within the body?
Well, every single micronutrient that is essential has specific functions to perform in your body. So if you are becoming sufficient across the board, then all of these things are going to work synergistically in your body to do all those little minute tasks that it has to do. It's not just, pumping your heart. It's having beautiful hair.
Yeah.
It's not just, it's all those extra bonuses that we like to talk about. And you don't even see it coming on. Like you said, when you start eating well, it really is amazing how, first of all, you're not hungry anymore.
Right.
And also your metabolism speeds up. You can maintain your weight eating much larger quantities of food because it actually burns more calories to eat foods that are unprocessed than it does to eat foods that are processed. And a lot of people don't realize that. Mm-hmm. So even eating a processed muffin, although it says it's fewer calories, you're not going to burn as many calories as you would eating a nice whole grain muffin that might be higher in calories because it not being processed is going to make your body work harder, and that's going to burn more calories. So it's just an extra bonus.
Right. Yeah, so and it really feels great too, as I'm sure you can attest.
Clean.
Yeah.
It feels like you're running clean.
Exactly. So I want to hear a little bit, or you could tell the listeners about your 6-year expedition. You went to over 100 countries looking for how nutrition affects health. So what was your adventure like, and what did you learn?
This was so important for us. We had read many of the studies, the journal studies, and of course we've been to school for nutrition and we've done all that. But what we hadn't done is do something like the Weston A. Price. We hadn't actually gotten a chance to go out and sit with, talk with, observe, live with, and just really integrate ourselves into these societies around the world. And we wanted to look at three different things. We wanted to look at really remote areas. We're talking really remote, like Trobriand Islands, Papua New Guinea, or the highest mountains in Tibet, or in India and China. And then we wanted to look at what we call the in-between areas, the areas that were just now starting to get a little modernization. Maybe they've got electricity. Maybe they have one or two little small stores popping up in their communities. So what was happening there with the lifestyle habits and the nutritional habits? And then we wanted to go, of course, to the urban centers and really do a comparative analysis as to what we were seeing. So this took us 6 years, like you said, to over 100 countries on all 7 continents. And what we really found was that as we moved away, and of course it's probably what a lot of people might theorize, as we move away from the natural diet of those remote areas, we start to incorporate these processed foods. We start to see the brightly colored bags, bottles, and boxes kind of starting to infiltrate these in-between areas. And as they do that, we start to see the health of these individuals deteriorate. So it's a complete, you can literally look at, as far as the further you move away from that natural way of eating, and the disease rates, they match perfectly. So the remote areas had almost no disease. Some of these places we visited had no idea what cancer was, no idea what diabetes was. There wasn't an obese individual to be seen. The kids had straight teeth and their glowing eyes and perfect skin. I mean, don't get me wrong. They're living in dung huts, and us, the American, viewpoint, we're looking at it like they have hardship. But health-wise, they're far superior to the modern counterparts.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what are they doing that's, aside from everything, what are they doing that's different, right? What's their typical day look like, I guess, in terms of food that they're putting in their bodies?
Well, first of all, there is no transportation of food. So anything that they're going to eat, they're going to pick. And because there's no refrigeration, they're going to eat it right away.
Right. So
you're not losing any of the micronutrients in the travel time or storage of their foods. Also, they're eating it wild. I mean, they're eating wild fish if they're getting it. There's no factory farm out there. And so therefore it also has more great ingredients, great micronutrients. There's also no pesticides. There's no GMOs. These are things they've never heard of.
Yeah.
And then physical activity, they have a real sense of community there. And everything is done as a group, supporting each other. So they're all working for this one united goal. So one group will be going out and picking things, and one group will be making the baskets to give to the fisher people, so the fish people can go out and get the fish to come in. And it's just a real community experience. And it was really amazing because, a lot of the foods that we look at here that we would never want to eat are really some of the most nutrient-rich foods available to these people.
Like eyeballs and things like that.
Sure.
And bits and pieces, parts, and critters.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they really respect the animal too. That's another thing that I think, again, we've kind of lost our relationship with food, in the modern societies. We're very disconnected with it. But over there, of course, and all around the world in these remote areas, they're very connected to it. It's their soil, it's their gardens, it's their food. It's, it's the animals that live in their forests and in their rivers, and they're very proud of that. And so there's a real respect for the animals and the food itself. And there's a real ceremony that goes along with eating, and they benefit health-wise because of this.
You must come back just changed people from an experience like that. How do you incorporate those, mental games into this modern world?
Well, this is the reason why we wrote Naked Calories. We want to start some kind of an awakening in America and say, first of all, people, we need to understand what a micronutrient is. When we first started to write this book, our publishers were saying to us, listen, you're never going to be able to use the word micronutrient because, first of all, no one knows what it is. So that kind of put a wrench in everything at the beginning. We said, no way. We're going to talk about what a micronutrient is. Yeah. We're going to talk about what's causing disease in this country. And we really want to start something where people start to respect food again and move back to that process of understanding how it is that eating foods that are naturally raised and naturally fed and respected and can really enhance our health. People need to have that connection between you are what you eat. We say it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really understand it.
Right.
Hear the rest of the interview at fatburningman.com.